And welcome back to the Nose Plays Age of Wonders 4. This is part 4 of our Loyalty is Its Own Reward campaign, honoring the Primarch Lionel Johnson of the Dark Angels and his glorious return to the Warhammer 40k universe. So, what better way than to play a little Lionel Johnson in the Age of Wonders universe? I went with the hooded theme for my lion. And just a reminder of our faction that we chose to build, and there's a lot of different ways that you could build this character. It's one of the cool things about this game is that it's a pretty big open world sandbox with lots of cool things you can sort of create from pop culture and other IPs. So I went with Tome of Beasts because, you know, he's really good at hunting animals. We went with Resilient because of his resistance to the warp magic. And then we went with Cold-Blooded, which sounds a little counterintuitive, but the reduction to morale loss, the inability to break the Dark Angels and make them run away, is something that's pretty common trait in the lore and in the tabletop for them. So I figured it was fitting. We went with Feudal, Fabled Hunters, and Chosen Uniters. And yeah, it's been a pretty fun playthrough so far. One of my viewers had mentioned in viewing the last video that this city was becoming quite the problem for us, and he is not wrong. Eastwatch, while it is a city that we're likely to vassalize pretty quickly, has completely blocked off my ability to expand. And one of the things that's very frustrating is almost all of the tiles in our immediate vicinity are food generating tiles. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing in many games and in many playthroughs. That can work to your advantage because that extra growth is going to allow you to stretch your empire out very, very far and pick up a lot of really good tiles that might be a little far away for other factions that don't have the food. Unfortunately for us, it does mean that we're kind of bottled in here. Because we're up in the top corner of the map, we can't really expand in two directions. And so the other two directions are an ocean and our vassal. And one option that definitely would have been something I would have considered had I known just how bottled up we were, is to immediately declare war on this free city and take it by force. And that would have allowed us to control its expansion. And I could have possibly like expanded along this way and grabbed the ocean tiles with this city, and then used my massive food tile surplus here to kind of sneak around and grow this down this way. That would have been an option had I known just how bottled up we are. At this point, it's going to be a little difficult to deal with this city. There are a couple of things that we can do, and one thing that I'm willing to experiment and try is we do have a lot of ocean tiles, and I haven't played around with the ocean tiles to any great degree, but I am aware that ocean tiles have a very unique. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna. There we go. Make a slight adjustment to the volume. But ocean tiles have a unique set of buildings that once you grab an ocean tile, you have access to ocean tile buildings in your city, and each one of those buildings enhances the output of future ocean tiles. So they can become very, very resource efficient in the mid to late game if you are willing to invest in them. And so that might be an option that we decide to go with, is grabbing a bunch of ocean tiles once we get all of the really good stuff over here, and then really expanding the effectiveness and efficiency of those tiles by getting those buildings done. So we'll have to see if that actually works out for us. But In any case, I'm trying to remember exactly where we were at. It's been a couple of days since our last playthrough. It looks like we have met one of the other players, and we are on pretty neutral terms with them. Um, they don't hate us, they don't love us, so we'll have some options there. I do have my wild speaker here, which we want to talk about later once we get a chance to get her or him into battle. And then we were setting up an outpost down here. So I was planning on using that outpost to grab this resource and then either expand it to grab this node or this node if possible. So we'll be looking at that in the very near future. Our economy is looking pretty good overall. I never like to drop below about 100 gold per turn. I think that is, if you can generate 100 gold per turn, your economy is going to be able to do pretty well, and you're going to be able to build almost any building in a couple of turns. Um, if your economy starts to drop below 100 gold per turn, you either need to build more gold generating buildings or reduce some of your upkeep for your army in some way, either by getting rid of and disbanding units or finding discounts in the uh, empire development tree that can help put you back on the right path. Let's take a look at this real quick. Okay, so yeah, I think we saw this message at the end of last game. So they're now sharing 30% of their income with us. If we can move them up to bonded vassalage, we'll get 40%, and that will continue to increase over time. I don't think there was anything else left for us to do, so let's go ahead and end the turn and get started. Okay. The Pyreborn Hunt. We'll have 25 turns for a battle quest to slay 3 units. All that information right there. Who is this? Chiefess. Okay, so these are the cat folk to the south of us. They have initiated a quest with us. Got some gore tusks that we're going to have to hunt for the cat folk if we want to be friendly with them. So this will give us several different options. Some of these options we may or may not be able to take advantage of. For example, this one, you decline the quest. Draft to the rock is blocked for 6 turns. Relation. I'm not sure why this one is not available to us. It's possible that it's not available to us because we're already constructing something with our draft. But that doesn't even make a lot of sense. Building positive alignment could be good. However, it would make them displeased with us for 18 turns. So depending on what our plans are with these cat folk, that might be not so good. 50-50 chance, because we have a high amount of nature affinity, we get this option. Unfortunately, we don't have a high enough nature affinity to really make this something I want to risk. So the higher your nature affinity or whatever affinity is related to these special affinity quest options, the higher your chance for success. However, I noticed that a lot of them actually have a failure where you lose 1 affinity point permanently. And 50-50 is not a chance that I'm willing to lose in a point of affinity. I may have to rethink that at some point. As far as I can tell, the major advantage of having affinity points is you primarily have more points going into the empire development tree. They're also slightly influential in how other empires' initial relationships are with you. So If you share affinities, you tend to have bonuses to the whatchamacallit, this resource. Approval? I don't know. Diplomatic status. And if you have opposing affinities, every affinity has an opposite, then you have negative modifiers. So maybe it's worth taking some risk on some of these affinity points. I guess the other thing is affinity points do gatekeep some of the later tomes of magic, so you have to have so many points in order to grab a tome of magic in the later stages. But I'm going to go ahead and accept the quest because getting the mystery bonus is usually pretty good. The relations bonus is usually pretty good, and also just the fight is more experience for our hero. If we zoom out real quick, we can see that that quest is just south of us. So we'll be able to go and hit that up pretty shortly. We do have plenty of time to take care of that. Also, it is listed up here, and your active quests will sort of be up here. You can also look at them under the chalice and the history of your quests and active quests, and you can turn them on or off if you don't want them tracked up there. But we'll go ahead and leave it up there to remind us occasionally that we need to get that done. Looks like we do have this spell ready, so this is going to increase the movement of our scout units. So pretty good stuff there. That'll help those units get a little bit more information for us on the map. And we have new empire developments. So by rolling over the last turn, all of these meters filled up a little bit more. And we now have access to this. This is one of my favorite abilities. It allows you to play really aggressively. As long as you have some friendly territory nearby, your units will regenerate an additional 15 hit points per turn in a friendly domain. So normally in a friendly domain we get 25. This puts it up to 40, and then our Lord of War trait gives us another 5 typically. So we can get almost half of our health in some of these units back in a single turn, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. We were not going to be able to use it immediately. And then the other one that's pretty cool is just gain 1 Whispering Stone. It doesn't sound all that impressive, but feudal empires in particular like to get a lot of vassals. And so having more of these stones lets us get more vassals. But even for empires that aren't really interested in vassals, these stones can be given to your own cities to improve their morale in the cities. So, for example, I guess it's city stability, but same thing. City morale, city stability. There are buildings you can build that will generate these points as well. And again, every time you grab a new tile, this is going to lower your city stability because your empire is spreading out and it's harder to keep track of and keep law and order over a bigger territory. And so having buildings that help improve that, or using a Whispering Stone, which you can activate right here, it will build up a small amount over several turns, and it will decay a small amount over several turns as well. So if you have it built up to the full 20, and then you give that Whispering Stone to another faction or free city, it will degrade 2 points a turn at the same rate. It doesn't just immediately go away. So that was good to know. All right, so we've got several units. We're still waiting for this outpost to be completed. And I just realized that this is not an enemy any longer. Now, I'm pretty sure it was earlier, but this is now a group that is related to this Helheim faction. So I'm wondering... Okay. So they expanded into the tile that I wanted. So that's unfortunate. That doesn't mean we can still probably get this one, though. And it is also going to lower our gold output by a small amount here. We have some options to get rid of this now. Because they belong to another faction, it's going to give us some choices here. So we can use our diplomacy to basically have them removed without a fight. We could appeal to them and also have them removed. Both of these are going to cost us something. So this is going to cost us relations, and this is just going to cost us allegiance. So it'll slow the rate at which this faction eventually becomes a vassal. We could attack them, declares war on this faction, because these are their military units. But I think I'm going to go ahead and appeal to our good standing with them and just have them remove those troops. Unfortunately, that means that we're not going to get the XP for fighting that battle, but it would have been a tough battle anyways. So let's go ahead and get those guys out of here. That's going to free up this tile for us to grab next turn. And it also means that we can move over here and probably fight this fight. This is a much easier fight than the one that we were anticipating. And I could definitely get this done this turn by using his extra movement. Let's go ahead and see what the auto combat gives us. Oh yeah, that's a very generous. So we don't need to actually fight that one. But we do want to try to get to one of these two tiles so that we end our turn in this space where we're going to get our outpost. Okay, let's get this ship out here. And then I'm just going to set him to auto-explore from there. We'll move this unit down. And these guys, apparently I just had him clicked again. I thought I got the whole army to move, but apparently not. We could have done the logistics of this a little bit better. I could have just sent him for the combat and had them move to the edge of where they needed to be included in the fight. That would have been the smarter way to do it, but no big deal. All right, so we finished a research. Time to select a new research. And now that we have our wild speaker, I want to start summoning a bunch of wild animals and taking advantage of their discount. Also, that fight allowed our hero to level up. So let's take a look at what traits we could pick up. I really like a lot of these traits down here at the bottom. You could just make him tougher, make him a better fighter, but I think stand together would be a really good one to pick up. Also, defensive training is nice, and feudal ruler is really nice. If you pair feudal ruler with stand together, that's a 30% damage buff to anybody standing next to Lionel Johnson. Also the bonus defensive point. Inspiring leader is one of those traits that you can use if your military costs start getting out of control and you level up a hero. But I think we're going to go ahead and get stand together first. That's going to allow him to not only benefit from stand together when he stands next to our military units, but also trigger stand together for other allies. So we can set up our front line a little easier. And we finally grew. Okay, so trying to remember what we needed to do. It looks like we have 2 of every type of major one we can. And there's not many options outside of that. So we've got the 1 quarry there that we can have, and the 1 quarry there that we can have. I could definitely do 2 more foresters and 1 more farm, and then we can start working on these. So let's consider here. That's going to require a quarry. That's going to require a farm. So the 3rd farm might be where it's at. The question is where. Probably like one of these 2 tiles. Yeah, let's grab that one, and then I'll grab the forester here next, probably. Uh, 75 Imperium will be all of our Imperium. I don't want to spend that just yet. And we do have some pikemen being created. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that one for now. We may end up building more pikemen, but pikemen are cheap and they do upgrade quite nicely into pretty solid units later on. So, all right, so that actually is now going to give us the mint at a boosted level. And again, I really like gold, but we need a mine in order to get the mint. We only have 1 tile that can support a mine. Maybe 2. Yeah, this one can support a mine. And then I believe this one can support a mine. Yeah. Okay. So we might have to switch one of those at some point in order to get the mint. Let's go ahead and get the stonemason queued up. And that'll just boost the rate at which we get all these other buildings completed. All right, we're about to take a look at our first outpost, which will be nice. Oh, that's unfortunate. I really wanted to clear that. We get some good benefits for clearing those. Okay, so now we have our outpost. So, a couple things about outposts. Typically speaking, outposts have to be built a certain distance away from your cities or other people's cities. The reason that we were unable to build the outpost in this tile is it was a direct claim of Halheim. Direct claims are any tiles that are immediately adjacent to your border. And so as you expand, those direct claims expand with you. But at the time, there was nothing here, and so we tried to put an outpost there. It would not allow us to because of this free city. So we had to put it here instead. Now that they've expanded their border, we would have a difficult time putting this back if it ever got destroyed, because this is now their border, their claim territory. Distant claims are any tiles that are 2 tiles or more away from your actual border. And you can build outposts in any of those tiles. So what this is showing us here, by clicking on this button here, we can see all the locations that our hero could build an outpost in. Outposts are really, really useful for a couple of reasons. Number one, they sort of preemptively claim important areas of the map that you might want to expand into in the future and prevent other players from grabbing those tiles. Number two, they provide a distant area of friendly domain, friendly territory, where you can heal your units much more rapidly. And number three, they provide these options here. And these options are pretty cool. So the first thing to note is that anything that's in the tile, they will begin claiming. And so because that Astral Dew is no longer guarded by an enemy tile, and we have an outpost here, we're getting the 10 knowledge and the 10 mana. They do, however, have an upkeep cost of 10 gold. And so every turn we're losing 10 gold by having this outpost here. But if you think about it, 10 gold for 10 mana crystals and 10 knowledge is pretty worth it. Not a bad thing at all. Once you have an outpost down, you have the option of using a large amount of Imperium to convert it to a new city. And once it's converted to a new city, it'll be able to do all the things that cities can do. However, you can do a couple of other options without becoming a city. You can actually build some walls, which will provide kind of like an empty fort, very similar to the outposts in Age of Wonders 3, if you ever played that, where if you do get attacked in this tile, enemies will have to go through the siege process, which we'll see at some point, which is new to this version of the game. And then once they're finished sieging, they'll be able to fight, but there will be some defensive structures that you'll be able to use as the defender to help hopefully turn the tide of battle. The higher the fortification points, the longer it will take for the city or the fort to be sieged before the fight can actually start. You can also build a watchtower here. This just increases the range at which you can see and sense other enemies moving around the map. And then the last thing you can do is you can expand your territory by one tile. You can only do this once per outpost, but what it does is it lets you claim one of the adjacent tiles. And so my original plan was to maybe claim this tile, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to do that. Instead, we're going to have to claim this tile here. So I'm going to go ahead and pay 100 gold. It'll take 3 turns to get a work camp going. And when that gets finished, we'll be able to grab one of these other 2 tiles here. And we'll talk about which one we might want to grab at that point. Let's go ahead and take a look here. You can see now we're getting a massive amount of healing due to the new talent trait thing that we picked up. So we got our friendly domain, we got our natural recovery, and we have our Lord of War. This is giving us 45 health regeneration every single turn in a friendly territory. So that's going to get everybody back to full, which is fine. We don't really have anything to do now that they wiped out our enemy. So what we might as well do is heal up and then finish scouting and head down to get this quest taken care of. So we'll spend 1 turn here and we'll just hit the wait button. That'll also allow this character to catch up a little bit more. Outpost is founded. And yeah, let's send this unit down here as well. And now we have the Astral Dew. We haven't talked a lot about these magic materials yet, but they're pretty powerful bonuses. Every magic material that you get is pretty useful. There are 3 different types: liquids, plants, and ores. And if you can get all 3 of a single type, there's another 4th bonus effect that you get in addition to the 3 required resources for enabling that bonus. And these are actually all really, really good. So when you start meeting a lot of other empires and free cities, Trading with them to get the ones that you're missing is a really important thing. It is also important to note that if you trade away one of these resources without having a duplicate of it, it can actually knock out your ability to collect this. So if I were to trade these haste berries away, this would actually go to 0 for however many turns that we're trading. So good to keep in mind when you're making those negotiations. But many times you'll have 2 or more of a particular one, making it very favorable to trade with other players. We've moved up another tier, so that's increased our income a little bit. And they're pretty happy with us. This faction isn't as happy with us, but they've moved up to active cooperation. We do have the ability to trade with these guys, so let's see if they have anything worth trading. We already have the haste berries, so that's not important. I could get more mana crystals, but I think our mana situation is pretty good at the moment. I could also get more food. I don't typically trade for food because gold is so much more valuable than food. But because I do have plans to sort of rapidly expand into the water territories to try them out, I think it's worth doing. One thing that we do still need to do that I haven't done yet is we need to clear this brigand's lair. It's a pretty easy battle, and so that might be another option after we clear this quest. I do want to wait that turn still, though. All right. Looks like another quest. Oh no, this is a... Duke Roderick Akers of the Dark Angel race. Where is this? Interesting. So there's another free city of our faction's race, all the way to the south of us. This is a situation where having another Whispering Stone might be worthwhile. So we can see that we've given one to Eastwatch and one to Helheim. I could take one of those back from either one of those locations. That would end its general progression towards vassalage. However, one thing that we identified last time we were here is this. And it's only 75 Imperium. We do have it, so let's go ahead and buy that. Then we can talk to these guys again. Now we can give them a Whispering Stone. And what that's going to do is slowly, over several turns, improve their relationship with us and allow us to create another vassal. So hopefully we can get that done before anybody else. At the moment, it looks like nobody else is currently negotiating with them. So there's a pretty good chance that we will be able to do just that. Okay. I unlocked this spell last turn, I think. But we can go ahead and cast this. Remember, it's going to take over a turn to cast this. If we had enough points to cast it on this turn, this would be 0. But because it's going to take 50 points of this turn's casting points and then 20 of the next turn's casting points, that's why it's showing it's going to take 1 turn to activate. And you can see the 20 remaining. I don't think there's anything else we need to do this turn. Go ahead and end the turn. Very good. Okay, one of the things I noticed is that our gold bounced up again, so that's good. It looked like it was going to be below 100, but maybe we moved up in relations with somebody. Declaration of friendship. Did they declare friendship with us? Let's take a look at this guy. So this is a really cool addition to the game, I guess you could say. The game has personalities for every player in the game. And these personalities have specific traits or specific behaviors that those AI are going to sort of play out. So this is a demonic warlord, a bloodthirsty ruler who prefers treachery to weakness. He likes empires that break treaties. He likes empires that execute prisoners. He dislikes empires with vassals, and he dislikes empires that have many alliances. He's driven by war. He never surrenders. He's into extermination and expansion. So this is probably not a player we want to be friends with. Sorry about that. Okay. I'll turn that down for now. So as I was saying, this might not be a player that we want to make friends with. Let's back out here and look at pronouncements. So we can declare a rivalry with this player. This will make it easier for us to start a war with them without penalties. It will cost us a little bit of gold, but I think that it's probably worth doing. And you can see right here, we can declare a war without justification. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to declare a justified war in the future. All right, let's move this unit down. Move this unit down. I'm not sure why we ended up back there, but let's go ahead and cast this spell and make our scouts even better at their job. Okay, an elf. An awakened fae. So they are high culture, chosen uniters, fable hunters. I don't have another whispering stone, so I can't really do much with them at the moment. Where are they at? They're pretty far away too. So not a problem. We'll deal with them later once we've expanded a little bit more. All right, all of our units are now healed up. I need to start moving towards this quest down here to the south. So let's go ahead and get that moving. So got some more units that are sort of pseudo-claimed by these guys. And it looks like that's the end of this turn. I do have some draft I could start working on. Um, and I think I actually will draft another scout. We could also spend half of our Imperium to go ahead and grab another tile real quick. But I don't know that we really need to just yet. I think we're growing pretty quickly as it is. All right, we've met another player. Let's take a look at their personality here and see if... So the first thing we know is they're evil. So they have an evil alignment. Not super evil, just a little bit. They do have nature affinity, much like us. So, and they are a protective sage. So they like summoned units. They like vassals. They don't like large domains or empires that start wars. They favor treaties. Their wars must be justified, and they like exploration and expansion. They also have Astral Dew, which we've already collected, so that's not of great value to us. They don't like us for some reason. Yeah, I'm curious what modifiers are causing them to have such a negative opinion of us. I'm guessing it's the fact that they're evil and we're good, is probably what it is. Um, but having greater negative modifiers is going to make wars a little easier, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so they're way over here on that side of the map. Opposite corner of the map. Not a big threat to us at the moment. This guy's a much bigger threat that we're going to have to deal with. She could be a threat to this city, but if we can vassalize that city, it will eventually give us an opportunity to have sort of a forward outpost or a forward position to attack her from. So vassalizing that city might be a priority that we want to start working towards. Alright, any other spells? Not this turn. I think that's good for this turn. Okay. We can summon wild animal next turn. Select new research. So, one of the cool big changes in the game is the new tome system. I really like this new setup for Age of Wonders. In Age of Wonders 1, 2, and 3, you basically sort of decided all your magic at the very beginning of the game, and that sort of set your path for the whole game. And it never really changed, and you never had any more input after that. This version of the game, you make some of those decisions at the very beginning of the game, but then as the game progresses, you have the opportunity to sort of make decisions on the fly. And these decisions are going to have a big impact on what you're able to research, what kinds of things you're going to do, as well as your affinity points, which remember affect your empire development. Some of your quest options are affected by those things. And so these initial bonuses are really cool. You want to pay attention to these as you're picking your new tomes. Each tier of tome you get to pick basically 2 from till you get to the higher tiers, like tier 4 and tier 5 and tier 6, I believe. So we'll talk more about the higher tiers later, but we already have our first tome of magic from tier 1. That was the Tome of Beasts. So let's go ahead and take a look at some other ones that might be beneficial. So I kind of like Tome of the Horde, specifically for this talent, which lets us summon random non-scout tier 1 units. So that's going to be our archers and our pikemen. And the pikemen in particular are really useful in that we can summon them directly on the map to wherever our army's at. potentially, and they can level up into tier 2 units. So this basically, after a little bit of time investment and leveling up, can count as a tier 2 unit summon. So that's kind of cool. And it's something that I've thought about maybe playing around with. I haven't chosen this tome in the past, so that it would be kind of a new tome for me. The other one that I kind of like is this one, the Tome of Enchantment. I think this plays really well with the theme of the Dark Angels. One of the themes of the Dark Angels in 40k lore is that they're kind of given a bunch of technology from the Dark Age of mankind that nobody else is really allowed to use. And so this kind of plays into that, where we get like bonuses to our weapons and special tools, bonuses to our ranged units. So this is one that I really like. And then we can also summon golems, which is another tier 1 polearm unit that lets us summon them directly to our armies. So let's say we get in a fight and our front line gets devastated. Instead of having to build an army from far away and march them over, we can just summon a couple of these replacement units to sort of get by in the short term. They're not going to be super powerful, but they're flexible in that we can just pop them into existence on the map wherever we need them. We also get some Materium affinity, so we'll start to build some progress down that tree. And then we get Sundering Strikes, which is a new novice war hero skill. This just gives bonuses to Sundering defenses. So it will basically remove bonus defenses that enemies have stacked up. The one that I've been taking most frequently has been the Tome of the Roots. And I like this one because of the whole astral forest thing that the Dark Angels have going on right now, with the lion being able to walk through these like ethereal forests and sort of do a teleportation. Really interesting, weird mechanic, but kind of cool. The Vine Prison is kind of neat, and then a healing spell and some poison damage on our weapons. But I think actually I'm going to go with Tome of Enchantment. So we'll go ahead and pick that one this time. Try something a little different.
Enchantment is truly a union of the worldly and the arcane, as it requires both a steady smithing hand and magical prowess. Enhance weaponry, tools of labor, and even your people to see your empire rise above any other.
Okay, so down here at the bottom of the screen, I want you guys to notice where it says next tome 4 research cycles. What this means is that we have to research 4 spells from our total pool of available spells that we have collected to get our next tome of magic. It does not matter what level those spells are at. It's just 4, and it doesn't matter what books they're from. As we get more books, we're going to get an intermingled variety of options every single turn. And so one of the things that's commonly done in the game right now is players will basically always research the cheapest spells that they can to sort of accelerate their access to the higher level tomes. So that's something to keep in mind if you really want to get to those higher level tomes quickly. Also, by doing that, you're going to collect your tomes faster, which means you're going to get more affinity points. And the faster you get these affinity points, the faster you're going to start building up these trees and unlocking some really cool one-time and static powers. So we still have a tome to pick, or a spell to pick. I'm kind of debating whether to grab this or this. This is really, really good. Grants physical ranged attacks of enchanted units +1 range. +1 range is like, it's pretty powerful to be able to position your units further away and still shoot. It will apply to any of our ranged units, which we have 2 of in our army. So this is a good reminder. It also applies to any future skirmisher units that we pick up. So it could be pretty powerful. The Sundering Blades, it just reduces defenses. So every time we attack something with our physical attackers, like our polearm units, the defenses will be reduced. And then this is that summon golem. I think I am going to go ahead and grab this one. I think it's going to be the most useful for us. All right, looking good so far. We still have some orders here. So there's an underground passage there. I think we're just going to move her down. And then this guy, gonna move him down here as well, see if we can't get there in time for that fight. Alright, very good. So it looks like next turn we'll be able to pick up that fight. I'm not missing anything, am I? Nope. I think we're good. Alright, so... ooh, we have a grievance. They've insulted us based on our recent actions, which has worsened our relations and created a grievance. We'll have to talk a little bit about grievances. Grievances are an interesting mechanic. Basically, building up grievances while keeping grievances from building up on your opponent, the difference between these two bars is essentially how you create justified wars. So the more grievances you have, the easier it is to get your people to get behind a war and not have penalties to your economy. We actually can declare a justified war, and you can see that it's a minor justification. So we're still going to gain a little bit of evil alignment, but that's basically it. If we can get that up to 26 or higher, we'll get a bonus to Imperium, which increases over time. So that's pretty good. And then if we can get a really large 51 or higher, we get a bigger bonus. So the downside is if you have no justification, you actually lose a percentage of your Imperium, and that penalty gets pretty restrictive. And Imperium is a very important resource that you really don't want to be losing, because it can really slow down all kinds of growth and activity and things that you can be doing during quests. So let's talk about settling grievances. So what this does is I basically demand a little bit of money for the insult, and she'll pay me that money, and then this grievance will go away. So this is one way to get some money, but it does reduce the grievance, which means it's harder for us to declare war. There's also an option in some cases of just forgiving grievances, and that will actually build good alignment. So if you're trying to get your alignment boosted up or adjusted from making some decisions earlier in the game, forgiving grievances is another option. And you can see right here, we'll get a little bit of positive alignment, but we get no other benefit. This one will actually collect the gold, or we can hold on to this and hope that we're able to declare a just war. So that's what we're going to do for now. All right, I would like to wrap this turn up with this quest. Fortunately, he's not going to be able to make it, is he? Not if we do it this turn, which we're likely to do. Orders required, we'll just put her on Explore. And we can summon a wild animal. So let's go ahead and summon that right here on our... Okay. So we got this Inferno Pup. That's pretty cool because Inferno Pups, excuse me, Inferno Pups have the Butterfly, which is the Evolve trait, which means that if we level this thing up enough, it will actually turn into a more powerful unit. So, good one to get. Any of these beasts that can level up into more powerful units is kind of what we're looking for. In addition to that, we're getting a discount on our upkeep because of her trait, which is Caretaker. So all animals in this army have 20% less upkeep. And because this is a magical beast, the upkeep is in mana instead of gold. And we have a good supply of mana, so this is more than okay. We're going to have to increase our mana output if we want to summon an entire army of these things. But it's still going to be cheaper because of this one unit. So, pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and finish this. So now we have our, what was it that we grabbed? Workers camp. So that lets us grab an adjacent tile. And this tile here, because there's a mana node in it, we're going to get 10 mana no matter what we pick. So I have the option of picking between 5 research, 5 more mana, 2 food and 3 production, or 10 food. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this is something that I need to verify, but I'm pretty confident, resources that are on the right side of the city menu, like food, production, and draft, can never be collected from outposts. I've seen mixed commentary on this, but in my experience, I have not seen where the food actually ends up in the city. So if I pick this food will generally be wasted. And that's kind of how it was in the old Age of Wonders games, and I'm pretty sure that's still the case here. We might do an experiment at some point to actually test it out. I do have a theory of why there might be confusion, and it could be that if your city connects its borders to an outpost, that you can start to collect that stuff, possibly, but I haven't tested it. What I am going to go ahead and do is research is really important, and we can actually get some more research here and mana crystals, both of which we need. So we're going to pick that. And now both of these territories are now friendly territories. We can heal if we park our armies in there. All right, and then to end our turn, we're going to use him to start this combat. And we'll auto combat just to see what happens. That's actually not a bad result, considering how much we can heal. I know it's kind of boring to just do auto combat sometimes. Actually, let's go ahead and retry it because I wanna show you guys the Wild Speaker. This should be a really easy fight though. All right. So, got a couple of interesting tiles here. What does this do? Sharp. Units passing through this or in their turn on it will be inflicted with bleeding. So we want to avoid those when possible. It doesn't look like it's going to be a big deal. The movement of these guys, not as high as I thought it would be. So we can move up quite a bit. All right. Let's go ahead and unfortunately our bannermen not going to be able to get to the tile I wanted them to be in, but that's okay. And we can only do this ability once per turn, or once per combat, but we're going to summon a unit. And then that should be good for the end of our turn. I don't want to do any of his abilities this turn. I might have done this, but I can do it next turn, so we're fine. Puts everybody on defense and gives us another turn to position. So the first thing that I kind of want to do is move him there and activate that. We can just run these spiders in and try to get as much damage as possible on these little piggies. And they can soak that damage because if they die, it does not affect us in any meaningful way. I can move both of these guys up to here for now. And I think I'm going to move my hero up there. And I want to be careful not to allow these guys to flank. So before I do anything else, I'm going to move my hero like that. And now this is no longer a flanking tile. So he won't be flanked if I move him there. Then we can move these guys up. And these guys up. And I actually want to move probably there. There. Okay. Now they've already used their ability, so they can't move this turn. This unit can. And then we can cast this like that. Boost everybody's morale. Go ahead and get some shots off here. Get some more shots off here. And then these guys can't quite kill that unit. So then, do I just take my shot with this? I think I will. Not very good odds, but okay, we got a little bit of damage in there. The pups. So I want to see who can be attacked here. And maybe move these guys in sort of a defensive position. Alright. If I get behind them and attack them from the flank... Yeah, let's just go ahead and do that. I think they'll be okay. Alright, and then this guy can finish this unit off, much like we did before, and still force everybody else to move at least one space to attack us, causing them to lose an attack. Now this guy I don't want to attack with, I would rather just put everybody in defensive mode. So the enemy has wasted a retaliation attack and one of their normal attacks on my spiders, which is great. Really good for us. These guys do have a retaliation attack. So if we can weaken them before they get to use it, or even kill them before they get to use it, that would be really, really good. And notice we have a lot of damage on these archers. And because we're not moving this turn, we get 3 shots, which is why it shows the 42 damage there. So let's go ahead and take that shot. missed one of them. Let's see if we can... Oh. That wasn't great. Our spiders are now dead. What is the range of this? Up to 3 tiles away, so... I need to move to this tile in order to cast it. We're going to cast this spell on our Inferno Pups. It's going to increase their damage, and also, after they kill something, they're going to get another attack. We'll save that for now. Who's left? Okay, so this guy's still left. I could take a shot at the boar from here, or I could use a healing spell. I'm not sure that I'm going to need a healing spell. Let's move this guy behind the boar. Get a flanking attack, which won't be retaliated. Do the same with him. Hero has the option of going in here and swinging for pretty good damage, but not enough to kill. One thing that I goofed up on already is I probably should have cast this at the beginning of my turn. That's going to increase his damage a little bit. Okay, another thing. I should have moved both these units before I attacked to make sure that we were getting the stand together bonus. And so when you're playing the Feudal Empire and these adjacency bonuses are so important, it's a really good idea to make all your moves before you start clicking on attacks. Alright, it's a pretty good chance of killing this guy outright with this attack. Not quite. But the doggos can finish him off. Pretty similar to what we got in the auto-resolve, to be honest. Okay. By clearing that quest, we have some options with these guys now. We already boosted our relations significantly, so that's good. I could get a bunch of food or some money or a brutal catfolk, a ranged unit, or a bunch of Imperium. I kind of want to take the Imperium. I think the Imperium could be really useful here pretty soon. So let's grab that. And then kind of figure out what we're going to do with these armies. These guys are in really good health, so we don't really need to go back. We could actually do some exploring with them and just heal up naturally. This army probably should head back this way and heal up. And we can send him over there to join her, so we have a few more units in it. We could also summon another wild animal, which we should do. And I think this is probably a good place to end the video. We're just over an hour like last time, so yeah, really enjoying this game and enjoying streaming for you guys. If you have anything specific that you want me to cover, please mention it in the comments. I do read the comments and I do try to talk about those things when I am streaming. So also feel free, if you happen to be on, jump in the live chat. I do glance over there from time to time, and if anybody posts anything important to the game, I tend to bring it up and mention it, say hi, whatever. So jump in there and send me a message sometime if you happen to catch me streaming. But that'll wrap it up for today. Until next time, this has been The Nose Plays, and you guys have a wonderful evening.